Hey everyone, and welcome to a new series here on the channel where we're diving deep into the fascinating and often overlooked world of demographics. And today we're focusing on a state that's near and dear to my heart, even if it doesn't always get the love it deserves, Oklahoma. You know, the Sooner State, home to sprawling plains, a rich Native American history, and a certain brand of Heartland grit that's hard to find anywhere else. But here's the thing. Oklahoma is big, like geographically big. It's the 20th largest state in the U.S. by land area, yet when it comes to population density, it ranks surprisingly low. Which begs the question, why aren't more people putting down roots in the Sooner State? What's keeping Oklahoma from attracting new residents and keeping the ones it has? Over the next few episodes, we're going to unpack the complex factors that contribute to Oklahoma's stagnant population growth. We'll explore the economic hurdles, the environmental challenges, and the social shifts that have shaped the state's demographic landscape. From the energy sector's boom and bust cycles to the struggles of rural communities, we'll uncover the hidden realities behind Oklahoma's population paradox. So, buckle up, because we're about to embark on a journey through the Heartland, one that will challenge our assumptions and shed light on the often overlooked stories of the people and places that make up this fascinating state. Let's get started. To understand Oklahoma's population trends, we need to start with its economic backbone, and for generations that backbone has been heavily reliant on a few key industries: oil, gas, and agriculture. Now, these industries aren't unique to Oklahoma, of course, but the state's dependence on them has created a unique set of challenges, particularly when it comes to attracting and retaining a stable workforce. See, when oil prices soar, Oklahoma experiences a boom. Jobs are plentiful, wages are competitive, and the state attracts workers from all over. But when those prices inevitably drop, as they did during the oil glut of the 1980s and more recently in the mid-2010s, the effects are devastating. Suddenly those high-paying jobs vanish, unemployment rises, and the state's economy takes a major hit. This boom and bust cycle has created a sense of economic uncertainty that makes it difficult for Oklahoma to compete with states that have more diversified economies. It's like riding a roller coaster, exhilarating at times, but ultimately unpredictable and potentially nausea-inducing. And for young people entering the workforce, the lack of stability can be a major deterrent. Add to that the challenges faced by the agricultural sector, droughts, fluctuating crop prices, and increasing competition from large-scale farming operations, and you have a recipe for economic hardship, particularly in rural areas. While cities like Oklahoma City and Tulsa have made strides in diversifying their economies, many rural communities haven't been as lucky, leading to a growing urban-rural divide. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the funnel cloud in the sky, Oklahoma's weather. Now, anyone who's ever glanced at a map knows that Oklahoma sits smack dab in the middle of Tornado Alley. And trust me, that's not just a catchy name thought up by bored meteorologists. Oklahoma experiences some of the most extreme weather events in the entire United States. We're talking powerful tornadoes that can level entire neighborhoods in minutes, scorching summers with temperatures regularly exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and hailstorms that can turn your car into a dented, windowless metal box. Living in Oklahoma often feels like living on the edge of a disaster movie set. And it's not just the immediate danger that these events pose, it's the constant threat, the ever-present knowledge that, at any moment, Mother Nature could unleash her fury. Imagine living with that kind of uncertainty hanging over your head. It's enough to make anyone consider packing their bags and heading for calmer climates. Now, Oklahomans are a resilient bunch. They've learned to adapt and prepare for these weather events, building storm shelters, developing early warning systems, and fostering a strong sense of community preparedness. But for people considering a move to the Sooner State, the prospect of facing down twisters and scorching heat can be a major deterrent. But it's not just the dramatic, headline-grabbing weather events that make Oklahoma's climate a challenge. The state also faces less visible but equally impactful environmental issues. Droughts, for instance, are a recurring problem, putting a strain on agriculture and water resources. And in recent years, these droughts have become more frequent and severe, likely exacerbated by climate change. Then there are the flash floods, which can transform normally dry creek beds into raging torrents in a matter of hours. These floods damage property, disrupt transportation, and pose a serious risk to human life. And let's not forget the dust storms, a haunting reminder of the Dust Bowl era, which can blanket entire towns in a thick layer of dirt, impacting air quality and visibility. Taken together, these environmental challenges paint a picture of a state grappling with the forces of nature. And while Oklahomans have shown incredible resilience in the face of these challenges, it's understandable why some people might hesitate to put down roots in a place where the ground can shake, the wind can howl, and the rain can fall, or not fall with such unpredictable intensity. Okay, so we've talked about the economic struggles and the, shall we say, spirited weather, but there's another force at play here, one that's reshaping the very fabric of Oklahoma rural flight. It's not just an Oklahoma thing, of course. We're seeing it across the Midwest and South. Small towns, once the backbone of America, are struggling to hold on to their residents, especially young people. As industries change and jobs disappear, folks are forced to make a choice. Stay in a shrinking town with limited prospects or pack up and seek opportunity elsewhere. And let's be real, the allure of the city is strong. Better job markets, more diverse social scenes, access to culture and entertainment. These are all big draws, particularly for young adults eager to start their lives. So they leave, and the cycle continues. The result? A tale of two Oklahomas. On one hand, you have Oklahoma City and Tulsa, these bustling urban centers attracting new residents and investment. And then you have these vast stretches of rural communities grappling with dwindling populations and a shrinking tax base. It's a microcosm of a larger national trend, and it's putting immense pressure on the state. This urban-rural divide isn't just about population numbers, though those are stark. It's also about opportunity, about access to resources, about the very future of these communities. When young people leave, they take with them their energy, their ideas, their potential to create change. What's left behind are often aging populations, folks who may not have the mobility or the resources to easily relocate. And this creates a whole host of new challenges. Who will staff the local businesses? Who will care for the elderly? Who will lead these communities into the future? Now, I don't want to paint an entirely bleak picture here. There are efforts underway to revitalize rural Oklahoma, to attract new industries, to create opportunities for young people. But it's an uphill battle, and it requires a concerted effort from both the state level and the grassroots. Because here's the thing, Oklahoma's future, its very identity, is deeply intertwined with the fate of its rural communities. If these towns wither and fade, a part of Oklahoma's soul goes with them. All right, let's talk about jobs, specifically the lack thereof, or maybe more accurately, the lack of jobs. Now, one of Oklahoma's selling points is its affordability. Housing is relatively cheap, the cost of living is lower than many other parts of the country, and that's great until you factor in wages. Because here's the catch. While your dollar might stretch further in Oklahoma, you're probably earning fewer dollars to begin with. The state consistently ranks below the national average for wages, and in many rural areas it's significantly lower. This is particularly true for jobs that don't require a college degree. Which, let's be honest, is a lot of jobs. So, you can afford that charming bungalow in a small town, but can you afford to heat it in the winter? Can you afford health care? Can you afford to raise a family? That's the dilemma facing many Oklahomans, and it's a major factor driving people away. It's a classic chicken and egg situation. Low wages make it hard to attract and retain skilled workers, which in turn makes it difficult for businesses to grow and offer higher-paying jobs. It's a cycle that's tough to break. For decades, Oklahoma's economy has been heavily reliant on industries like oil and gas, agriculture, and manufacturing. And while those industries still play a role, the landscape is changing. The world is moving towards renewable energy, technology is automating jobs, and global competition is fierce. Oklahoma needs to diversify, to create a more resilient economy that can weather these shifts. But that requires investment in education, in infrastructure, in fostering innovation and entrepreneurship. There are some bright spots, for sure. The aerospace industry has a growing presence in the state, and Oklahoma City has made strides in attracting tech companies. But these gains haven't been enough to offset the losses in other sectors, or to close the wage gap. And that's the challenge facing Oklahoma, how to create an economy that works for everyone, one that provides good-paying jobs and opportunities for advancement, regardless of where you live or what your background is. Until that happens, the exodus of talent is likely to continue. Let's talk about education, shall we? Because as we all know, education is the foundation of a strong society, a thriving economy, a brighter future. And in Oklahoma, well, the education system has seen better days. For years, Oklahoma has ranked near the bottom nationally in terms of education funding. Teacher salaries have been abysmally low, leading to a severe teacher shortage. Classrooms are overcrowded, resources are stretched thin, and morale, understandably, is low. Now, it's not for lack of trying. Oklahoma teachers are incredibly dedicated, and there are countless stories of educators going above and beyond for their students, often dipping into their own pockets to provide basic supplies. But they can only do so much with so little. And here's the thing, when a state consistently underfunds its education system, it sends a message that education isn't a priority, that the future of its children isn't a priority. And that message doesn't sit well with a lot of families. So, what happens when families feel like their state isn't investing in their children's future? Well, they often look for opportunities elsewhere. And that's a major driver of the brain drain we've been talking about. Families with young children, particularly those with the means to relocate, might choose to move to states with stronger education systems, where their kids can have access to better schools, smaller class sizes, and more resources. And it's not just about K-12 education either. Oklahoma's universities and colleges, while generally well-regarded, also face funding challenges. This makes it harder for them to attract top-tier faculty, to offer competitive scholarships, and to invest in cutting-edge research. The result? A vicious cycle. Talented young people leave for better educational opportunities, and the state struggles to attract and retain the skilled workforce it needs to grow and thrive. Breaking this cycle requires a fundamental shift in priorities, a recognition that investing in education is not an expense, but an investment in Oklahoma's future. Okay, so we've talked about tornadoes, economic struggles, and education challenges. But here's another harsh reality. Access to quality healthcare in Oklahoma, especially in rural areas, is a growing concern. Imagine driving for over an hour just to see a general practitioner, let alone a specialist. For many Oklahomans, that's the reality. And it's not just an inconvenience, it's a life-or-death situation. We're talking about delayed diagnoses, limited treatment options, and tragically, in some cases, preventable deaths. The closure of rural hospitals has become a disturbing trend across the U.S., and Oklahoma is no exception. These closures are often driven by financial pressures, leaving communities stranded without vital healthcare services. And when hospitals close, it's not just about the building itself. It's about the loss of jobs, the decline in local economies, and the ripple effect it has on the overall well-being of a community. This healthcare gap disproportionately affects older adults and those with chronic conditions who require regular medical attention. Imagine having to choose between putting food on the table and affording your medication. That's the heartbreaking dilemma many Oklahomans face. And it's not just about physical health, it takes a toll on mental health as well. The stress and anxiety of limited healthcare access can be incredibly isolating and overwhelming. So, what can be done? Well, some argue for increased funding for rural hospitals, telehealth initiatives to bridge the distance gap, and incentives to attract healthcare professionals to underserved areas. But these solutions require political will and financial investment. Ultimately, ensuring access to quality healthcare for all Oklahomans, regardless of their zip code, is crucial for the state's future. We often take for granted the infrastructure that connects us, roads, bridges, and yes, even the internet. But in Oklahoma, aging infrastructure, particularly in rural areas, poses a significant challenge. We're talking about crumbling roads that make commutes treacherous, bridges in dire need of repair, and a lack of reliable high-speed internet access that hinders education, economic development, and even basic communication. In today's digital age, access to reliable and affordable internet is no longer a luxury. It's a necessity. Yet many rural communities in Oklahoma find themselves on the wrong side of the digital divide, struggling to compete in an increasingly interconnected world. This lack of connectivity not only impacts residents' ability to work remotely, access educational resources, or even just connect with loved ones online, but it also makes it incredibly difficult to attract new businesses and industries to the state. Imagine being a student trying to complete an online assignment with a spotty internet connection, or a small business owner unable to fully leverage e-commerce opportunities due to limited bandwidth. These are the frustrating realities for many Oklahomans living with inadequate infrastructure. And it's not just about convenience, it's about opportunity. Without a robust and modern infrastructure, Oklahoma risks falling further behind in a rapidly changing world. Addressing these infrastructure challenges requires significant investment from both the public and private sectors. It's about prioritizing long-term solutions over quick fixes, and recognizing that investing in infrastructure is investing in Oklahoma's future. From expanding broadband access to upgrading roads and bridges, a concerted effort to modernize Oklahoma's infrastructure is crucial for attracting new residents, businesses, and opportunities. Alright, let's talk about perception. Oklahoma, like any state, has its own image, often shaped by stereotypes and media portrayals, and sometimes those perceptions, whether accurate or not, can create real challenges. We've all seen the movies, the vast, dusty plains, the twangy accents, the sense of being a million miles from anywhere. And while those images might hold some truth, they don't tell the whole story. Oklahoma is a state of contrasts. Yes, it has its rural roots and its share of challenges, but it also boasts vibrant cities, a rich Native American heritage, and a growing arts and culture scene. But breaking free from ingrained perceptions can be tough. When people think of Oklahoma, they might not immediately think of innovation, diversity, or opportunity, and that perception gap can make it harder to attract new residents and businesses looking for a fresh start. Oklahoma's political landscape is often characterized as conservative, and while that's not necessarily a bad thing, it can create a sense of cultural isolation for those who don't align with those views. This can be particularly true for young people, LGBTQ+ individuals, and those seeking a more progressive environment. When people feel like they don't quite fit in, they're more likely to look elsewhere for a sense of belonging and acceptance. But change is brewing. Oklahoma City and Tulsa in particular are witnessing a surge in young professionals and entrepreneurs drawn to the state's affordability and emerging industries. The challenge now is to foster a more inclusive and welcoming environment that celebrates diversity, encourages innovation, and challenges outdated perceptions. It's about creating a place where everyone feels like they belong and can thrive, regardless of their background or beliefs. Okay, so we've spent the last few chapters outlining the challenges facing Oklahoma, a perfect storm of economic instability, harsh weather, and social factors. But how has all of this actually impacted the number of people who call Oklahoma home? Well, that's where things get really interesting. See, unlike some states that are experiencing a dramatic population decline, Oklahoma's story is more about what's happening. It's not that people are fleeing the state in droves, though as we've seen, there is significant outmigration. It's more that the number of people moving in just isn't keeping pace with those leaving. This stagnation has some pretty significant consequences. For one, it means the state's population is getting older, and as the baby boomer generation retires, there are fewer young people to take their place in the workforce. This can lead to labor shortages, a shrinking tax base, and slower economic growth overall. It's a bit of a vicious cycle, really. But it's not just about economics, right? Population stagnation can impact everything from the vibrancy of local communities to the quality of public services. Think about it. Fewer people means fewer customers for local businesses, fewer students in schools, and less demand for things like public transportation and infrastructure improvements. This can create a sense of decline, particularly in rural areas already struggling with the effects of outmigration. And that sense of decline can, in turn, make it even harder to attract new residents and businesses, perpetuating the cycle. It's like trying to run up a down escalator. You have to work twice as hard just to stay in the same place. And all of this has a way of impacting the state's overall image, making it seem less appealing to outsiders who might otherwise consider putting down roots. It's a classic chicken and egg scenario. Does population stagnation lead to these problems, or do these problems contribute to stagnation? The answer, as with most things in life, is probably a bit of both. So, is there any light at the end of the tunnel for Oklahoma? Well, it's complicated. The challenges we've discussed are real and significant, and there's no magic wand to make them disappear overnight, but amidst the difficulties there are glimmers of hope, signs that Oklahoma isn't simply accepting its fate. One key area of focus has been diversifying the state's economy. For too long, Oklahoma has been overly reliant on industries like oil and gas, which are notoriously boom and bust. Now, there's a concerted effort to attract businesses in sectors like renewable energy, aerospace, and tech industries with the potential for more sustainable long-term growth. And it's not just about attracting new industries, it's about investing in the ones that already exist. Oklahoma has a rich agricultural tradition, and there's growing interest in agritourism and sustainable farming practices. Similarly, the state's tourism industry, while often overlooked, has potential for growth, particularly in ecotourism and outdoor recreation. But economic development alone isn't enough. Oklahoma also needs to address the quality of life issues that are driving people away. That means investing in education, healthcare, and infrastructure, particularly in rural communities that have been hit hardest by outmigration. There have been some positive developments on this front. The state has made progress in increasing teacher pay, though it still lags behind the national average. There are also initiatives to expand broadband internet access in rural areas, which is crucial for everything from education and healthcare to economic development. And then there's the matter of perception. Oklahoma has often been stereotyped and overlooked, but there's a growing movement to change that narrative. From promoting the state's natural beauty and cultural attractions to highlighting its entrepreneurial spirit and affordability, Oklahomans are working to showcase the best their state has to offer. Oklahoma, like so many places across the American heartland, is at a crossroads. It's a state grappling with complex challenges, economic uncertainty, social division, and a sense of being left behind. But it's also a state with a deep history, a strong sense of community, and a resilient spirit. Will Oklahoma become the next great comeback story, a testament to the power of innovation and determination? Or will it continue to lose ground, its population stagnating, its potential unrealized? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, the story of Oklahoma, like the vast plains that define its landscape, is still being written. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into America's hidden stories. Got thoughts about Oklahoma? Drop a comment below.